Greetings and welcome. Welcome to this quick live. And just wanted to talk a little bit about fears and going to the doctor and to gauge if anyone actually has fears of going to the doctor, and if so, why? I asked that question because as we get older, we are required, suggested, encouraged to go to the doctor and to have preventative testing, both men and women. Men, there's a particular test, and I get on you often, and those that are in my life, to please go get that test done. I have begged, and when I say begged, I do mean begged my brother over and over and over ad nauseum to please go and get the P exam test. Now, because I am not a man, I have no idea how, if there's any men thinking that's in the chat now or who may catch the replay, how you all feel about that. Is there a stigma? And I'm speaking about the prostate screening, but there are so many men that I know that refuse to get it. And as I've mentioned, I have asked my brother, we've had verbal fisticuffs, if you will, to please just go get that. Early detection, from my understanding, means an awful lot, but there are so many that will not go. And he's one that won't go for these smallest things. One of my best friends out of high school, and I will never forget him. He was just married. Mind you, this has been 17 years ago, maybe more. But he was married. I was in his wedding. He had a boil. Now, I know many people may think a boil is something small, but to him, he refused to go. And I'll never forget his wife contacting me saying, he'll listen to you, he'll listen to you. I'm like, if you can't convince him to go, trust me, I don't think I'll be able to convince him to go. Because I loved both of them. I knew him from first grade on up, and then I met her in middle school. So when I did finally muster up the courage to speak to him about it, he actually raised his voice to me. And I said, you know what? I'm going to leave it alone. And as I said, that was just a boil. But unfortunately, and sadly, the boil became infected. And I'm thinking, okay, it's just a boil. It's just something small. That's how we look, or many people look at boils. But no, it became infected and actually gangrene. And I'm not sure how many people are familiar with that, but gangrene had set in. And I didn't know this at the time. I went to visit him at the hospital because I'm thinking this is minor. Yes, he's in the hospital. Many people go to the hospital for minor things. Again, I'm thinking this is just a boil. I didn't know about everything else. So when I get there, I'm told, well, he's no longer in the hospital. They took him to another hospital because of an infection. Okay, so I said, well, I'll visit him tomorrow. So I talked to his wife, and she said, yes, because of the infection, they took him to another facility that was more equipped to handle those types of situations. So I said, okay, I'll visit tomorrow. She said, thank you. I called her the next day before I left out to visit to ask how was he doing and did she think he was up for company. So she asked me, are you sitting down? And I'm like, yes. Not even thinking what came out of her mouth after that. She said, there's no need to go to the hospital because he passed away. My best friend was gone. I don't believe they were married. They weren't married a year. They weren't married a year. We were out of high school maybe 6, 7 years. And because he refused to go to the doctor, and I don't know if there was fear behind that, if he just didn't like the doctors, or perhaps he thought it was something minor. He didn't go, and he's no longer here. He was beloved by so many people. That's just, I guess, a preface into this topic. Do you have a fear of going to the doctor? I spoke about me trying to get my brother to go to get his screening. He is, let's see, I'm 55. He is now 52. So he definitely should have that, but refuses to go. I have had my screenings, well, the majority of them. There are a couple that I'll admit that I have a fear of going to the doctor. Now, I've had the upper and lower, and you ladies know exactly what I'm talking about. They are both uncomfortable, and if it's your first time, depending on who you are and your mindset, and perhaps your faith, that can be extremely frightening, especially the upper, because some ladies forget that you're not supposed to go in there with any deodorant or lotions or anything like that, because if you do, something may show up and you'll have to return. The wait is agonizing. So, with that particular one, my very first time, I was nervous, extremely nervous. I was sitting on the bench with my little hospital gown on with all the other ladies talking, and we're each encouraging one another to stay strong and everything is going to be okay. And there were some ladies that had gone back for further testing, and some, unfortunately, there were things that were found. So when you hear that, Some people, myself included, I would have to raise my anxiety extremely high, extremely high. But as far as that particular test, and I have them yearly, I've been fine, as well as the lower. Now, the last test, which is the colon cancer screening, and that's where they'll actually send you a card for you to provide a sample. I don't know what it is about that, but I've refused to get that done. And I keep getting reminders and those packages. And the reason why I say that is because, and I know it is extremely, extremely irresponsible on my part. So I would not suggest that anyone that is listening or who may catch the replay to follow in my footsteps as far as that is concerned. But I already have an underlying condition which I've been dealing with for over 30 years now. And I'm ornery, and my position right now is, and again, I know it is irresponsible. Actually, it's foolish, and I can say that for myself. I've gotten into the mindset whereas I do not want to hear any more bad news. And I had to really, really think hard on that. And I mean, I had to have divine intervention on that. Many people say early detection, early detection. I've heard of successful stories, and I've heard of stories that may not have turned out to be the greatest. And with everything else that we have to deal with in the world, my mind set up and made up. I don't want to know anything else. And when you think about that, it's foolish. I am a worry wart. And when I say that, I am not being facetious. I've always been a worry wart. My mother used to get on me about that. She was like, "You worry about everything." And when I do get my periodic test, my pressure is always up. I don't have high blood pressure. It's the anxiety from stressing out and worrying about so many things that will have the readings up. Eventually, after I calm down, my readings are normal. But I do know that stress causes cortisol. When you get that, that can lead to the extra, and I said can, I am not a doctor or physician or anything under that umbrella, but it can lead to that little tire around the tummy. And it could possibly exacerbate any other underlying conditions you may have, or or it could manifest conditions that you've never had. And I have to think about that often. I have to think about that often. I had a couple of messages to come through to get your eye exams and anything you can think of. Because as we get older, some people, your vision starts to change. It's good to get your glucose and your A1C levels checked regularly as well. The last time I had my A1C level checked, it went up exponentially higher than it had in my adult life. And again, I stress out about many, many things. And they put me on diabetes medication. Not saying that I'm a diabetic, but because the level was so high, they want me to be careful. I was told recheck it in 3 months to see if the levels were reduced. Needless to say, due to my fears, I didn't go back 3 months. Actually, to be transparent, out of fear, I just went back. I do not have my results. And I've noticed, and this could be age, it could be anything, but my vision isn't as keen. No, I don't wear glasses, and I don't need to at this time. But the way my mind thinks and the way I am about everything, I'm automatically thinking, okay, I am a diabetic, and now my eyes are, or my vision is affected. No one has told me that. That's what I'm thinking in my head. So I'm saying this to say there are some people, hopefully not a lot, that will make things worse by thinking things or making things appear to be there that aren't there. So now I have to patiently wait for the results. And my doctor already said it may not be anything, and also reiterated that as you get older, there are changes in your vision. I know many people much younger than I that have to wear prescription glasses, and they have for the longest time. I do not have the best vision, but it's been pretty good. But I've just noticed lately just a change in that. So, as I said, the way my mind thinks, I'm just putting the cart before the horse, so to speak. So, that will be the next test to get done. So, as I mentioned, as we get older, some people, also depending upon your family history of any issues, that's very key as well to know. Number one, if you do know, to get your screenings and get them as early as you can and be on time with them. Do not follow my lead whatsoever. It is not responsible. And that's the key, being responsible. And it's not an intelligent thing to do because just say my levels haven't changed or, God forbid, they're worse. I could have made things worse. I could have made, or I could be responsible for making my body work harder. I've already changed my eating habits and exercising and things like that. I will admit I do not like water, even though I drink it. I don't drink it as much as I should. But when I do, I'll put a squeeze of lemon or lime, or I'll batch a nice jar of apple cider vinegar. That's probably the best way you'll catch me drinking water. Now, I do like coconut water, but regular spring water, I have it. That's the funny thing. I have it. It's just something that I don't go to. I'll do a smoothie before that, a protein shake before that. And yes, I'll get maybe a bottle, and I'm being generous, maybe a bottle of water in a day, but I know I must do a better job than that. One bottle is not going to cut it. We're coming up on warmer weather. It was 70 here and very humid. Humidity is something that's very bad on my joints, where exercise is needed even more, at least for me. Exercise is needed for us all, not just younger folks, but older as well. And I see a lot more older people who have been, at least from my optics, extremely active. And that is truly key. Some people may not be able to afford to go to these high level gyms. And I've said this in many other videos. You don't really have to have those. You can exercise in your home. There are many tapes out there that you can pop in and follow. There are a lot of people on social media that have pages dedicated to exercising. You can invest in your little hand weights, the little contraption you can use to exercise your inner thighs and your hips. I have that. So there are many things you can do. Walk up and down the steps, walk around the neighborhood, stand up against a wall, do toe raises, and keep your legs strong, your arms strong. You can do many things. A friend of mine just had his second knee surgery. He's around my age. I believe he's 57. So this is his second knee surgery. After that, he'll be well on his way to rehab. I can't even imagine. It's not that I don't have knee pain, because I do every now and again, but to have surgery, I don't want to think about that on my knees or any place else. So he was a trooper, and he actually wasn't afraid to go to the doctor to have that surgery. He was looking forward to it, because I would imagine having those shots, and I'm not sure how effective and how long they actually last. He was proud to get his second new knee. A girlfriend of mine who also has lupus, she had knee surgery, I think maybe 2 years ago, because she had to have those shots. And she was telling me how extremely painful they were. And I said to myself, you know what? When my knees hurt, and sometimes they do, sometimes the joints on my wrist ache so bad to the point where I'm nearly in tears. I'll grab my prednisone, which is a steroid, not the steroid that you see some athletes use. No. And I may, not often, but it depends on how severe the pain is. Cup, what is it? I'll take a couple of Advil. I think that's 400 milligrams, and just do my best to pray that that pain subsides. When you take too much of ibuprofen or those other tablets, depending upon the state of your health, it can mess with your stomach and other things. So I try extremely hard to stay away from medicines, period. I like the natural, even though there are some that I do have to take. Most of the time I deal with the natural, and as I said, getting the exercise in, that's key. That's key. And just preparing for what comes with the blessing of a new day, a new year of life. Those that are blessed for another year, because we get older, we don't get younger, we get older. Everything that comes with that. Some people, unfortunately, have issues where one thing will start to change and then it becomes a domino effect. So the key is, and I know you're probably saying, how in the world can you say that when you were afraid to go back to the doctor? That's why I'm saying, do not use what I did as a blueprint. No, do not do that. You have to do whatever you must do to conquer any fears, because trust me, even though you may not want to know if something is wrong, if it is, there is a possibility that if, God forbid, something is wrong, it can be caught in time, or, and this is what I look at, you can lessen the damage depending upon what it is. Some things from my research and speaking to others can be reversed, or levels can be changed. But the key to that is being consistent. That's easier said than done. There are so many temptations out there, and I've said many times in the past that my kryptonite is Reese's peanut butter cups. Now, I have not had any lately. The last time I had one was Valentine's Day. Now, some of these stores already have the Easter sets up, and there it's like a smorgasbord of chocolates everywhere. I do my best to ignore those because I do not want to fall back into that track. Now, that's not to say you have to starve yourself from from anything. You just do things in moderation. But keep in mind, if you already have an underlying condition and you know certain foods you definitely should not have, then do your best to not yield to those temptations because it is so easy to fall into that trap and say, oh, I'll work on it before the summertime comes, but you don't know what type of damage you may already be causing yourself. So, again, we all have temptations, and as I mentioned, that is one of them for me. And I do it on occasion. Most of my sweets come from my smoothies, and that's okay with me. Or sometimes a low carb, extremely healthy trail mix. There are a lot of different things that you could do, but it takes willpower, a lot of willpower and discipline. It took me, and I never thought that I would ever not go a week without having bacon or some type of pork. But back in 2018, when I had the scare of my life, I had to do a lifestyle change. I do not believe in diet. Some people do. I don't. I don't believe in diet. I believe in lifestyle changes. That includes not just what you feed yourself as far as nutrition, but what you feed yourself emotionally. And I think a lot of people forget about that as well. Emotional health, your mental health. If you've been around long enough, you will know that mental health is real. And there are so many people that deal with mental health issues. Some hide their issues, while others are extremely obvious to those that listen and observe their behavior. So, all of those things together play a role in our health. And I believe all of those things need attention. So, when you get those communications, either through the mail, snail mail, if you have that, email, or perhaps a telephone call from your doctor that says, hey there, it's time to have your yearly whatever screening, get it done. even if you've received a bad report at one time and they request, like they did me, to go back in a few months to have lab work done, do what you can do. Pray, get encouragement, whatever mechanism you need to have. Go back timely. Do not wait until the last minute to get those labs, because every minute that you delay could, I'm not saying that it is, but it could really, I want to say this where it doesn't sound so dark and morose, but it could be the difference between life and what many say transitioning. So my question is, do you fear going to the doctor? And if you do, why? Your comments and thoughts on this topic would truly be appreciated. And with that, I'll close it out. Thank you to those that stopped by. Enjoy the remainder of your evening. And for those of you that are experiencing rains out on the road, be safe. The key is make it home safe. Till the next video, bye-bye for now. And thank you to everyone that came by. Please be sure to hit that like button if you would be so kind.